the news recently. I've been seeing a lot of like Shapiro, but apparently it's not Ben Shapiro, the evil Shapiro. It's Josh Shapiro, the good Shapiro, the light side Shapiro. That's him. Who's been in the news recently? Because
I want to have fun, classic Rick and Morty adventures like in the old days.
Then we'll get along fine, Fascist Morty. For starters, I just need to get to Fort Prime.
You will go where I want you to go!
Because a day ago, he announced that they're going to be pushing for automatic voter registration. So in Pennsylvania, now, when you turn 18, you'll automatically be registered as a voter, and then you can just vote, you know?
That's
something
awesome.
that very smart, non-stupid people would all be in support of. Because it just makes you shouldn't have to do extra work to exercise your rights. It should just be given to you, right? A good Shapiro? Yeah, you didn't know about Josh Shapiro? Really? The good Shapiro, yeah. Rust Belt's been pumping out W's recently. Rust Belt's been pumping W's. Like Michigan. Minnesota, obviously Minnesota, all right? Socialist dreamscape at this point, obviously. Minnesota's been giga-based. Wisconsin's been pumping out baseness on a small degree, but a decent amount. They've been working on it. Just got to fix Indiana and Ohio. That's a long-term project. It's not too bad, but that's a long-term project. 4 out of 6 ain't bad.
Yeah.
4 out of 6 ain't bad.
We're trying.
Listen, the blue wall just got 10 feet higher, if I'm going to be honest with you. But with that being said, CNN and its like right-wing lurch has made it difficult for them to see anything past the dollar signs of the new like Warner Bros. Discovery boss who wants CNN to be like a conservative hellscape. And that's why CNN's the lowest rated show, the lowest rated program these days, kind of period. But anyways, with that being said, take a look at this.
Well, some very big news in voting rights in a very key swing state. Pennsylvania's governor has just announced his state will now automatically register eligible residents to vote when they get a new state-issued ID or driver's license. Now, 23 other states plus Washington, D.C. have some form of automatic voter registration, but few of them are likely to play as pivotal a role in the next presidential election as Pennsylvania.
Well,
Let's
Michigan,
go.
that's probably one that play a really pivotal role. Georgia, it's literally right there. Virginia as well, to a much lesser extent, but that's still. I think like Georgia and Pennsylvania would be like okay.
Joining us now is Pennsylvania's governor, Josh Shapiro. Governor, we appreciate your time. I kind of want to dig in on the implementation of all this in a minute, but one of the primary criticisms we heard yesterday when this was announced from Republicans in state legislature was, why didn't you go through that? Why didn't you go through a legislative process, work with the other side on this? Why move forward on your own?
Because they don't want lives to be better. Republicans don't want people's lives to be better, so that's why they don't like automatic voter registration. There's no reason to be against automatic voter registration. There's no factual, logical reason to do it. If you're thinking of it in the form of what's best for the people of your state and or the country as a whole, it does make perfect logical sense when you think of it in this form of Republicans do better when voting is suppressed, and so having more people go out to vote, and it's easier for them to vote. Having people who find it harder to have like the specific voter IDs that you would be legislating for and against at specific times that they would have to go there. Yeah, of course. Those types of people are more likely to vote Democrat because Democratic voters are usually poorer and have more things going on with their lives than Republicans, who are usually richer, have more money, and have more time. And so it's easier for them to do things like waddle their ass to a voter registration booth, when Democratic voters more likely than not want to do things like take care of their children more, or have to worry about going to work or paying for bills or something along those lines. So they don't have all the time to be able to stand in line as long as Republican voters do in general. And so yeah, by that very logic, it would make perfect sense why they wouldn't want automatic voter registration. And so that's why they fight against it. But there's no other reason for it, because if you think that it increases the amount of fraud, that's just not true. Like, we'd still know if somebody is voting illegally if they get automatically registered to vote. It's pretty easy to keep up with that. That's why voter fraud isn't a real issue in this country. It's very hard to actually do it.
What's your response to that?
Well, let's be clear about something. I've been very open during my campaign and my time as governor about my belief that we should be an automatic voter registration state. We worked on the process. I'm well within my legal authority, and we put out a process that is secure and safe. It goes through our DMV process, which already includes safeguards to ensure that the person registering to vote is eligible to vote. This is an important way to expand voter participation, which I think in turn strengthens our democracy. I'm firmly on the side of promoting and protecting our democracy. If there are those that want to make it harder for people to vote, then they're going to have to account to that. But the bottom line is I'm well within my legal authority. This is good for our democracy, good for voter participation.
You mentioned what the
DMV or what checks there are, right, from the DMV, et cetera. I just was wondering if you could please respond directly to Stephen Miller, former Donald Trump aide, who tweeted this. I can promise you there will be no citizenship verification. Just want to give you a chance to respond to.
What? Why would you be on the voter registry to vote if you weren't a citizen? Me when I lie? Me when I'm stupid?
Directly to that.
Yeah.
Also, if I'm going to be honest with you, I think people who aren't citizens should be able to vote in local elections. I think just because you're not I think if you have some residency there, just because you're not a citizen does not mean that you shouldn't be able to vote. I think you should be able to vote in super local elections, municipal, city council, stuff like that, because it directly affects you. And I think that if you're on American soil, then you abide by the Constitution and you are granted constitutional rights because you're on American soil. Period. That's what I think, and that's minimum. I've heard some arguments about them just being able to vote. Period. But there's back and forth with that.
Look, I'm not going to respond to Stephen Miller.
That's true. The guy is a literal Nazi. Guy is a literal skinhead fucking Nazi who wanted to torture people at the. If you ever wanted to know why the border policy was so specifically evil under Donald Trump, things like trying to force feed Muslims pork, children getting abducted, the uterus stealer, doctor, deadly chemicals inside of the concentration camps. One of the people who specifically worked for that to happen was Stephen Miller while he was working under Donald Trump, because he wanted there to be as much suffering at the border as humanly possible, because he thought that would lead to better outcomes for people coming here less. So if we just torture more people, maybe they'll think twice about the torture that they're experiencing at home versus the torture that we could give them in the concentration camp. So that was his whole goal. And that shit was insane.
That guy's a dope.
Not it's necessarily much better under Biden or under Obama, but it was specifically cruel under Trump.
Who can't tell the truth.
I'm not asking you about Stephen Miller, Governor, but just about what he raises, because I think he raises a question others may raise. So just to the substance of what he said.
Right. Well, he doesn't raise any substance. Here is the actual substance. When you go to get a driver's license, when you go to renew your driver's license, you have to bring identifying documents in order to be able to secure that driver's license. The same documents are required in order to be able to register to vote. We're relying on a system that already has safeguards built into it to allow someone to be automatically registered to vote. If you choose not to register to vote, if you want to opt out, that's perfectly fine. But we think we need to make it easier for eligible voters to participate in our democracy, and that's exactly what our system does here. Listen, Poppy, I went to court more than 40 times to defeat people like Stephen Miller and others who tried to thwart the will of the people here in Pennsylvania, who made up all kinds of ridiculous claims.
It was crazy,
after the 2020 election. And I won every single time in court and defended the will of the people here in Pennsylvania, defended the...
Yeah, I had to get my SSN. Yeah, it's crazy, ain't it? I had to bring out identifying documentation, but you had to bring out identifying documentation to be able to vote. Sorry, to be able to have a driver's license to begin with. So there's already a check. Well, you want a double, triple, quadruple check? Do you want a prostate check to see if to check up their butthole to see if it has a little foreign flag in it to see if they're able to vote? What the fuck are you talking about? It seems like at the end of the day, what you're really mad about is that more people are voting, period. That's just me though.
The right to vote. And here in Pennsylvania, we value our freedom, we value our democracy, and voting is central to that. And now it's easier for eligible voters to have their voices heard here in the Commonwealth.
And I think that's why it's important for people to hear from you, all the checks that are there.
It brings up something I've been thinking about when you saw the response to this, and from who was responding. The experience you had back in 2020, and obviously in running in 2022, the concern that this just feeds kind of new threads for the same people who questioned the results in 2020. Now they can say, hey, look, they did this on their own. He did it unilaterally. This was all to kind of get votes to rig the election.
Hey, listen.
Listen, it's just, here's the thing. Conservatives love this new phrase. It's called buying votes. And what they mean by buying votes is that you do things that your constituents actually want and that improve their lives materially. That's what conservatives think buying votes are. Since conservatives don't do anything to improve the material lives of their voters at any point in time, especially on a national level, I get the idea of actually helping your voters, doing things like what the Constitution says the government is for, allowing you to pursue happiness. This is why conservatives are against things like universally feeding school children. That's why they're against things like free lunches, right? That's why they're against things like improving social spaces for kids. That's why they're against things like why a bunch of conservative governors were specifically against extra money to people who are unemployed during the COVID pandemic while they were getting their jokey pokey, their clot shot. You know what I mean? That's why they're against that. That's why they purposely opted their states out of the Obamacare and Medicare expansions. Medicare and Medicaid expansions. That's why they did that personally, to make sure that their constituents suffer more. That's why places like Mississippi, they don't spend money that was given to them to rebuild infrastructure, and they just sit on it because they simply just don't care. They don't care. They never have, they never will care. It's not something that's on their to-do list. They've shifted completely to being the party of the culture war and of culture issues, and anything outside of that purview is something that they didn't want to bother themselves with, because it's not an easy slam dunk, easy funding money. It's way easier to hop on Facebook Live and burn a bunch of empty boxes to say that you're dry.
Thank you, Shark3ozero. I love you so much. I will put all you guys in the description. Check out Sensei Ninja Pig on TikTok, and check my TikTok out, and check out my Instagram and my Facebook. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of fucking geckos. Damn. Woo. Headshot. Get this gecko meat. Much. Get it, boy. Woo! Ah! Woo! There we go. Do you guys have any water? Alright, I'm not gonna take everything from them because their clothing's only worth 2. Well, that's a little weird. I think it should be worth a little more than that, but